Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Topping our newscast tonight, 48 states and territories have committed to putting an end to rapes in prisons. The U.S. Department of Justice made the announcement Wednesday. These governments plan to take steps to reduce the number of sexual assaults occurring in prison as required by law. News 2's Erica Parsons has the story.
48 states and territories, including the VI, say they will now have zero tolerance for rapes inside prison walls. The Prison Rape Elimination Act, or PREA, was passed by Congress and signed into law in 2003. It was created to prevent, detect, and respond to sexual abuse that occurs in confined settings within prisons, jails, lockups, and juvenile and community confinement facilities. The PREA standards weren't released until 2012, but this year is the first time agencies could be penalized for not complying with the federal law. May 15th was the deadline for states and territories to submit those assurances. If states and territories don't agree to the new policy, it means the loss of 5% of the department grant funding that they receive. Statistics show that about 4% of state and federal prisoners were sexually abused between 2011 and 12. In juvenile facilities, that number jumped to 9.5% within the last 12 months. Officials said it's a widespread problem that's unacceptable and should be addressed. PREA requires that states who are not in full compliance give an assurance that at least 5% of their funding will go towards making sure they're compliant within a couple of years. Implementing the policies means prevention planning, having sufficient staff to supervise and monitor prison areas, cross-gender searches and viewing, training and education of staff, regular screenings to see if an inmate has been abused, making sure abuse is reported, investigations, regular audits, and discipline. New Hampshire and New Jersey are fully compliant. 46 states and territories, including the VI, have submitted their assurances to working to reduce the incidences of these violent acts, but 7 states and 1 territory are now subject to the loss of funding with their refusal to comply. Erica Parsons, News 2.
The PREA standards include public input from more than 2,000 comments and a detailed analysis of anticipated benefits and costs. The full standards listing can be viewed online at www.prearesourcecenter.org. The Virgin Islands Parole Board will hold parole hearings next week for more than 3 dozen inmates. 39 inmates accused of crimes such as gun possession, burglary, assault, rape, and murder will appear at the Golden Grove Adult Correctional Facility from June 2nd through June 5th to be considered for parole. Hearings will begin on Monday, June 2nd at 9:15 a.m. The hearings are not open to the public but are open to testifiers. The Parole Board welcomes the public to submit any information on the inmates or to testify at the hearings. Anyone interested in testifying or providing information must submit in writing their desire to attend the parole hearings at least 24 hours before the hearing. For more information or to submit written requests, you can contact the Parole Board Coordinator, who's Darian Whitley. That number is 774-5666. Well, Vitema hosted the annual All Hazards Preparedness Expo with the theme Train, Prepare, Response. The event was organized to help arm residents with the tools they need to survive any disaster. During National Hurricane Preparedness Week, May 25th to the 31st, the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency, Vitema, joins NOAA in encouraging residents to start preparing now for the 2014 Atlantic hurricane season. They held the annual expo at Tutu Park Mall in St. Thomas today.
We're again encouraging all of the members of the community to come out, get as much information from the different local and federal agencies that are present here this afternoon, and at the same time prepared a kit for themselves, the family, and businesses. So we continue to encourage this. And
the Virgin Islands is vulnerable not only to flooding and hurricanes, but also to no-notice events such as earthquakes, tsunamis, wildfires, and man-made disasters. The expo brings together government departments and agencies, non-government organizations, and local businesses that will provide the community with information.
The mission of the National Weather Service is to protect life and property for the people in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And part of our outreach program is to come and meet the people who we are working for. So it's everybody in the islands of St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, including Puerto Rico.
Well, for the Corps of Engineers, the closer we get to the hurricane season, not only for part of mission readiness is also to inform the public. And events like this allow us to come here, introduce ourselves, put out information so they can also be ready. Now,
it's critical to network with those folks and get to meet these folks and put, as I was talking to Director Lewis, a face to a name is really important. So that to me is what I get the most out of when I go to these expos.
The expo's message: get a kit, make a plan, and be informed.
Preparedness is a responsibility of the individuals and the family themselves, so we're encouraging that. In addition to that, we're also encouraging folks to sign up for the VI Alert. That is where you can get free information, real-time information, and any occurrences that might be approaching the territory. And of course, recently we've been receiving a number of seismic activities within this region and adjacent regions. So we'll put that information out on VI Alert as well.
And here are the remaining dates for the expos. On Friday, May 30th, it's 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Cruise Bay, St. John. Saturday, May 31st, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the National Park Service in Christiansted, St. Croix. Major sponsors include the VI Water and Power Authority, FEMA, Innovative, VI Lottery, and the VI National Guard. Meanwhile, Vitema has posted the draft of the territory's updated hazard mitigation plan, and they're asking for a final round of feedback from the general public. The deadline to submit comments, it's June 11, 2014. The purpose of the territory's hazard mitigation plan is to identify activities that can be undertaken by both the government and private sector to reduce property damage caused by a series of hazards that includes flood, earthquakes, and hurricanes. The completion of this plan, which will include the public's input, will ensure that the Virgin Islands government maintains its eligibility for future FEMA funding through the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program and through competitive grants awarded under the Pre-Disaster Mitigation Program. Well, Memorial Day held much more meaning for the family of 22-year-old Margarby McCullum Matthew, who passed away earlier this year in a fatal car crash in Washington State. Matthew, who was stationed at the USS Nimitz with the U.S. Navy, was on his way back to the base when he struck a tanker truck carrying liquid nitrogen, causing the truck to roll over onto his car. Matthew was an E5 or petty officer, second class in the U.S. Navy. He died on the scene. Matthew grew up on St. John and was a graduate of St. Peter and Paul School on St. Thomas. His funeral was held in March at VI National Park, Ballfield on St. John, but on the 13th, a ceremony was held on the USS Nimitz ship in Seattle, Washington. Family members want to thank the entire community for the support.
His demeanor, his attitude, his dedication, and his spirit were one of a kind. I could trust him in that anything that I needed to get done, he would finish for me.
Petty Officer Matthew had much to be proud of, as he was the most qualified AO2 in G3 Division. I have no doubt that he would have gone quite far in his career. He asked me many times about becoming an officer and was getting ready to re-enlist soon. I was looking forward to being his re-enlisting officer. You will hear more about his life and how he had a positive impact on other sailors throughout this ceremony. I know that his strong work ethic and mentorship inspired those that worked with him, and I think that the sailors that he worked with could best honor him by continuing to care about each other and the important job that they do by maintaining its high standards.
The Youth Aviation Club from the local chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen spent part of Memorial Day replacing more than 500 flags. It's the third year the group has partnered with the American Legion's Post 102 to change out the flags at the Kings Hills Veterans Cemetery. Together, the two organizations replaced 576 flags in 2 hours. They said they do it to pay respect to all those who gave their lives for the freedoms we enjoy today. 4 service members will be honored by Virgin Islands Missions, Inc. for their commitment to the nation and their communities. On Friday, May 30th, the event takes place at 7 p.m. at Palms Courts Harborview on St. Thomas. This initiative honors men and women currently serving in the military, veterans of service, and those who have given their lives for their country. Honored are Captain Nicole Payne, retired Chief Warrant Officer Fort Gregory Francis, retired Master Sergeant Amadoso Mohammed, and retired Sergeant Beverly Smith Barron. A preliminary report looking at the scheduling problems at a VA hospital in Phoenix is fueling calls for the head of the agency to step down. The report found inappropriate scheduling practices are common throughout the entire VA health system. Craig Boswell has the latest from Capitol Hill.
It's Capitol Hill.
And keeping our eye on the economy, the U.S. economy did even worse in the first 3 months of the year than originally thought. The Labor Department says the number of people applying for unemployment benefits dropped 27,000 last week to 300,000. That's near a 7-year low. The Labor Department says the number of people applying for unemployment benefits dropped 27,000. Here's the New York Stock Exchange with our stock market watch. The Dow, Nasdaq, S&P all up. The Dow 65, Nasdaq 22, S&P 10. Coming up on News 2, it is slated as the culinary experience of a lifetime. Celebrity chefs, competition, and a whole lot of flavor. Just a taste, with some details coming up next. Mental Health Awareness Month is coming to a close, and with it, our weekly segments will end. Today, doctors want to make sure you consider your mental health when you seek to improve your overall well-being.
Individuals are seeking integrated care by many different specialties. So they want a cardiologist or people in cardiology for issues about the heart. They need to begin to think about including a psychologist or some other behavioral health care professional around their behavioral health issues. Major depression is the largest source of disability in the United States of America. You have about 14.8 million people with major depression. It's happening to a lot of folks, and so they need to be very concerned and get themselves checked on a regular basis. Deal with the stresses in your life. You need to go home every day from whatever you're doing, and you need to de-stress. You can exercise. You can meditate. You can do some yoga. You can sit back and listen to music. You know, soothing music, soft music, light music that don't hype your system up, right? You can go to the beach and you can swim. Sometimes you can just take a drive.
Good advice there. Well, teachers were out in protest as they took to the streets with signs and chants about the school calendar. In Frederickstead, a 2-hour protest was held in front of the VI legislature on Wednesday, and on St. Thomas, protesters were also stationed in front of the VI legislature. Protesters are hoping the senators will repeal a law that was passed last month. Be sure to count on News 2 to keep you updated. Congratulations to Principal Kurt Viale, Assistant Principal Celeste Knight Lang, and the faculty, staff, and most of all the students of the Arthur A. Richards Junior High School. 40 students were recently inducted into the National Junior Honor Society and the National Junior Art Honor Society. The students becoming new members of the Carlos Rodriguez chapter of the National Junior Honor Society. They were recognized during a candlelight induction ceremony. Additionally, an induction ceremony for Chapter 665 of the National Junior Art Honor Society was held for the art students. Well, 281 spellers from the U.S., China, Ghana, Europe, the Virgin Islands, and other countries traveled to Maryland to compete in the 87th Annual Scripps National Spelling Bee. Well, one of the competitors was our very own territorial spelling bee champion, Manav Tadani of Antilles School. Tadani, 13 years of age, is accompanied by his mother, Asha Tadani, and his coach, Sonia Swan. Now, so far, he has competed in the computerized vocabulary test on Tuesday, May 27th, and the preliminaries that was held on the 28th. Be sure to count on 2 for updates on his performance. Fifth graders in Miss Ava Brathwaite's class at Millen Urbowski Elementary have been busy these past few months creating, building, and marketing their own businesses, and the entire community is invited this Friday, May 30th, to come check them out at the school's first ever entrepreneurial fair. That stuff you'll find from rubber band jewelry to local cakes and tarts. Now, these students are offering up just about everything, and a portion of the proceeds from the event will be donated to the Family Resource Center. The fair kicks off at 9 a.m. again Friday with a ribbon cutting, and it goes on until 1:30 p.m. In other student news, 3 St. Croix teens are headed to the Big Apple for an intense summer dance program. Dayara Powell, Anut Mary Christopher, and Amal Bryson all attend Music in Motion Dance School. The trio were accepted to the Dance Theater of Harlem Summers Academy, but they need the community's help to get there.
It shows that Music in Motion has been able to set standards and also set criteria of training to get the students into the higher school of learning. When they're accepted to some of the highest prestigious schools in the world, that's when you know that your technique and your training has been called for. We know that funding is very short all over the island. Okay, funding has been cut from Music in Motion tremendously. But we are doing fundraising. We need funding. We need people to write checks to get these students to New York, pay also to help pay for their room and board, which they will be staying, and their training. So it's at least we're trying to raise at least $15,000.
So please show some support. Well, it is slated as the culinary experience of a lifetime. Celebrity chefs, competition, and a whole lot of flavor. Banco Popular's Ultimate Flavors of the Islands event, it's coming up on Friday, May 30th, 7 p.m. at the Marriott's Frenchman's Reef and Morningstar Resort. Now you can expect an Ultimate Chef's Challenge, tastings from restaurants, food and beverage exhibitors, kitchen demos with celebrity chefs, and much, much more. Proceeds from the event will benefit the local culinary arts programs through the U.S. Department of Education. Well, be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.